You know, it's kind of amazing when you stop and think about how much AI is already, well, part of things. Like doctors are using it, banks are using it.
Yeah, healthcare, finance, even how we get around with self-driving tech starting up.
Exactly. It's really weaving itself into, daily life. And that's why we wanted to really dig into AI and ethics today. It's something you, our listener, asked about. And honestly, it feels like a conversation we need to be having.
Absolutely. It's moving so fast, isn't it?
Yeah.
From theory to real-world impact.
Yeah.
So this deep dive, we're aiming to pull out the really key stuff about AI ethics. We're using the AI plus ethics certification from AI Certs as our main guide here.
Okay.
Trying to understand the big challenges, the frameworks people are suggesting, and really why this matters so much right now.
Right. So let's kick off there. Why now? Why is AI ethics suddenly such a huge topic? It feels like it exploded pretty quickly.
Well, a big driver is just the sheer scale of it economically.
Huh.
We're looking at projections of AI adding something like $15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030.
Wow. Okay. That's massive.
It really is. And it's global. Yes. North America has the biggest slice currently, maybe around 28.8%. But Asia-Pacific isn't far behind at 25%. Europe's got about 24.3%.
Hmm.
And look at the UK growing super fast at 14.1%. Even Latin America, the Middle East, Africa, they're all part of this, around 5.4% each.
So it's not just a Silicon Valley thing anymore. It's genuinely everywhere.
Exactly. It's becoming fundamental. And that's when the big ethical questions start hitting home.
Okay. So what are those core questions? If AI is becoming so embedded, what keeps you up at night, ethically speaking?
Well, several things. First, accountability.
Hmm.
If an AI messes up, say, misdiagnoses something or denies a loan incorrectly, who's actually responsible? The developer, the company using it.
Right. That's tricky.
Then there's explainability, especially with, deep learning. Sometimes these models are like black boxes. We know what goes in, what comes out, but the why is murky.
Which is tough when it affects people's lives.
Precisely. And fairness is the system treating everyone equitably, regardless of their background. And crucially, what about bias in the data it learns from? If the data reflects past discrimination, the AI might just learn to discriminate too.
So these aren't just like theoretical problems. They have real-world consequences for jobs, for how we interact.
Oh, absolutely. So societal impact is huge. We're talking potential shifts in the job market, sure, but also changes to economic structures, even how our daily choices are influenced. Think about the news feeds or product recommendations you see.
Controlled by algorithms.
Yeah. And that brings up worries about privacy, obviously, with all the data being collected. Plus, the risk of misinformation spreading faster or biased algorithms shaping what people think.
It feels like we need some guardrails then. How do we encourage all this amazing innovation, but also make sure it's, responsible?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Balancing innovation and responsibility. Thankfully, people are working on it. You've got groups like UNESCO putting out recommendations for AI ethics. And the IEE, that's a big engineering organization, they have their ethically aligned design initiative. These are attempts to build frameworks to guide development in a way that respects human rights and values.
You mentioned bias earlier, and that really seems critical. If the input is biased, the output likely will be too. Can we unpack that a bit more? How does this bias actually creep in?
It's often unintentional, which makes it insidious. AI learns from data, right? So if you feed it historical hiring data, and that data reflects decades of, say, gender or racial bias in hiring.
Then the AI learns those patterns.
Exactly. It learns that this type of candidate profile was hired before, so it favors similar profiles, even if the original pattern was discriminatory. And this pops up in really sensitive spots: hiring, loan applications, even policing or healthcare decisions. The potential for harm is significant if an algorithm leads to unequal treatment.
That's quite concerning. So how does something like the AI plus ethics certification help people tackle this? You can't just wish bias away.
No, you definitely can't. The certification focuses on a practical process. First step, just recognizing where bias can come from, the data, the algorithm designed, even how the problem is framed.
Okay, awareness first.
Right? Then actively working to mitigate it. There are techniques, sometimes called fairness-aware algorithms, which are specifically designed to try and reduce disparities between different groups.
Interesting.
And finally, auditing. You need to be able to check the system, test it for fairness, make its workings transparent, and ensure the outcomes are genuinely just. It's an ongoing process.
And transparency links to that idea of explainability you brought up. If I'm denied a loan by an AI, I should probably know why, right?
You absolutely should. Imagine being told no by a machine with zero explanation. It completely erodes trust. Explainable AI, or XAI, is all about trying to make those black box decisions understandable.
How does that help practically?
Well, it builds trust, for one, but it also empowers people. If you understand the reasoning, you can potentially challenge it if it seems wrong. It gives you agency back. That scrutiny is vital for ethical tech.
And it's not just about individual decisions, is it? There's this wider anxiety about our data, our privacy in this AI world.
That's definitely. Privacy is a huge public concern. There was a Statista stat, I think, showing something like 74% of U.S. adults are worried about AI and their data privacy.
Wow, three-quarters.
Yeah. And it's not just privacy. People worry about jobs being automated away, about deepfakes and misinformation, about AI being misused, or even becoming too independent.
Yeah, those are some pretty deep-seated fears. How does the certification material address those privacy and security aspects?
It puts a lot of emphasis on responsible data handling. That means things like strong encryption, really understanding and complying with regulations like GDPR.
Right, the European standard.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. And it covers tools and methods for deploying AI securely, making things transparent, basically trying to build confidence that personal information is being protected properly.
Okay, let's shift to accountability. This feels like maybe the muddiest area. Who is responsible when an AI causes harm? The coder, the company, the user.
It is really complex, and getting clarity is essential for ethical AI. You need clear lines of responsibility. That means having really detailed documentation about how the system was built and how it works.
You can trace things back.
Exactly. And having secure development practices from the start. The certification actually looks at cases like the IBM Watson Health situation. It serves as a kind of cautionary tale about the challenges and what can go wrong if accountability isn't clearly established.
So learning from past mistakes.
Yes, and recognizing that it's not a set it and forget it thing. You need ongoing monitoring of how the AI is performing in the real world. You need to actively listen to feedback from people affected by it. And your governance structures need to be flexible enough to adapt as the tech evolves.
Which it does, incredibly fast. That must make the legal side a nightmare to keep up with. What's the global picture like for AI laws and regulations?
It's definitely a moving target, but things are happening. The EU's AI Act is probably the most comprehensive effort so far, trying to regulate based on risk level.
Okay.
The U.S. is taking a more patchwork, sector-by-sector approach. The U.K. is kind of doing a hybrid thing. China has a more state-directed model.
So quite different strategies.
Very different.
Sure.
But they're all grappling with similar issues. Intellectual property for things AI creates, ensuring ethical compliance, protecting data. And we're seeing tools emerge, too, like Salesforce Einstein or IBM Watson OpenScale, designed partly to help companies manage these legal and ethical obligations.
Laws are one thing, but what about the people actually building this stuff day to day? How do they make ethical choices in the moment?
That's where ethical decision-making frameworks come in handy. They act as guideposts, really. The certification covers established ones like Google's AI principles.
Practical guidelines.
Exactly. And it even uses things like simulations. OpenAI Gem is mentioned to let people wrestle with ethical dilemmas in a safe space. The idea is to build confidence in applying the theory to messy, real-world situations.
So it's moving beyond just knowing the rules to knowing how to apply them.
Precisely. And this isn't just about individual developers making choices. It's also about how organizations and even the global community govern this technology.
Right, the bigger picture of AI governance.
Yeah, things like fostering international cooperation on standards, making sure organizations have clear internal accountability, and promoting inclusive innovation, basically, ensuring AI benefits everyone and includes diverse voices in its creation. The certification looks at examples of companies trying to do this well, through transparency, diverse teams, and cross-border collaboration.
It really sounds like this has to be a global conversation then. Ethics don't stop at the border.
Not at all. AI is inherently global. So there's a growing push for common ethical standards. The certification compares different regional approaches, but also highlights frameworks aiming for universality, like that IE ethically aligned design we mentioned.
Yeah, okay.
And tools are popping up to help embed ethics right into the development workflow, things like Google's model cards or IBM's AI Fairness 360 toolkit. The goal behind all this is promoting human rights, fairness, and accountability everywhere AI is used.
Which all circles back to needing people who actually understand this stuff and can do it. You mentioned a skills gap earlier. How bad is it?
It's pretty significant, actually. Looking at 2023 stats, something like 42% of employers globally reported a shortage in general AI skills,
Mm.
but it was even higher in places like France and Canada, near 48, 49%.
Wow.
Yeah, Ireland, Austria, Germany, the US, all over 40%. Even the UK at 33%. It's still a big gap. And it's not just a lack of people. Companies also struggle with, like, the complexity of the data. Around 25% cite that. Integrating AI into what they already do, 22%. Not have the right tools, 21%. And, of course, cost another 21%.
So there's a real bottleneck. We need people who not only get the theory of ethical AI, but can actually implement it using the right tools and methods.
Exactly that. And that's really the gap AI Certs aims to fill. It's not just abstract ethics, it's training on the practical tools, the platforms, the methodologies people are using right now.
Hands-on practical application.
Yes. Using simulations, real-world case studies, projects, the goal is to give learners expertise they can use immediately back in their jobs, in their organizations.
So if I'm, say, a manager or a team lead wanting to push for more ethical AI in my company, what specific problems does this certification help me solve?
Well, two big ones. First, often there's just limited access to the latest AI tools and relevant learning materials. The certification provides that structured access.
Okay.
Second, it provides the specialized knowledge and, importantly, the frameworks needed to lead these initiatives effectively. You learn how to make the case, how to implement the practices. The aim is to empower people to actually influence strategy and development to make sure AI is rolled out responsibly and fairly.
It sounds like the big goal, then, is creating a whole culture around this. Moving from ethical AI being a buzzword to just the way things are done.
That's absolutely the mission AI Certs talks about.
Yeah.
Building an AI-ready culture. That means making this knowledge accessible to lots of different people in an organization, keeping them updated, encouraging different departments, tech, legal, product, HR to work together.
Breaking down silos.
Yeah, it's about continuous learning, practical skills, and aiming for real measurable impact. Building organizations that don't just use AI, but lead with it ethically.
And this isn't just for the techies or the bosses, right? If I'm working with an AI tool every day, this is relevant to me too.
Absolutely relevant. Whether you're a CXO setting strategy, a compliance officer checking the boxes, a product manager designing features, or someone on the front lines interacting with AI daily. The AI Plus Ethics certification is designed to give everyone more confidence and a solid ethical grounding.
This has been incredibly illuminating. It really feels like the core message is we've talked about ethical AI enough. Now it's time to actually build it, to embed it.
Couldn't agree more. The shift from discussion to action is the crucial step right now.
So for anyone listening who feels ready to be part of that shift, ready to lead on responsible AI, what's the next step?
It's straightforward. Head over to www.acerts.io. That's AICERTR.IIO. You can find the AI Plus Ethics certification there and enroll. You'll be joining a pretty active global community focused on responsible innovation.
Excellent. And it leaves you with that thought, doesn't it, that the future really does belong to those who can harness AI's power, but do it with real integrity. Makes you consider your own role in building that future.
It certainly does.
Thanks so much for walking us through all that today. Really appreciate the insights.
My pleasure. Important topic.